Twitter has disrupted 3 China-based operations that were covertly trying to influence American politics in the months leading up to the midterm elections by amplifying politically polarizing topics, according to a trove of data released by the social media giant. Twitter and other tech platforms have struggled particularly to curb the spread of false claims of widespread voter fraud during the 2020 presidential election, and misinformation continues to be trending in this year's election cycle as well. Now, with less than a week before the polls are closed, misinformation and elections abound on social media despite promises by tech companies to address a problem blamed for increasing polarization and distrust. Platforms like Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube say they've expanded their work to detect and stop harmful claims that could suppress the vote or even lead to violent confrontations. One would think that social media platforms would have learned by now, and these conversations should have been addressed before Trump lost in 2020. Now, the damage is pretty deep at this point. YouTube, in a press statement recently, said, "Our teams continue to monitor the midterms closely, working quickly to remove content that violates our policies. We'll stay vigilant ahead of, during, and after Election Day." Meta, the owner of Facebook and Instagram, announced that it had reopened its Election Command Center, which oversees real-time efforts to combat misinformation about elections. The company dismissed criticism that it's not doing enough and denied reports that it had cut the number of staffers focused on elections. Most major platforms have announced steps intended to curb misinformation about voting and elections, including labels, warnings, and changes to the system that automatically recommend certain content. Users who consistently violate the rules can be suspended. Platforms have also created partnerships with fact-checking organizations and news outlets like AP, which is part of Meta's fact-checking program.
One way that mis and disinformation are affecting these elections have to do with how we come to trust our election results. A growing percentage of Republicans say that they do not trust the results of the last election, and many Republican candidates running for office are saying that they won't immediately agree that they'll endorse the results of this election. The elections were conducted fairly in 2020, and the processes in place to conduct the elections in 2022 are legitimate processes, and the mis and disinformation about that deeply undermines the trust that we have in our election results. The question is, will this motivate Democrats to vote or Republicans to vote? Or will Republicans say, "I can't trust the system, my own party has told me so, and so I'll stay home"?
Election misinformation is even more prevalent on smaller platforms popular with some conservatives and far-right groups like Gab, Getter, and Truth Social, Donald Trump's own platform. But those sites have tiny audiences compared with Facebook, YouTube, or TikTok. Post the last election cycle, pretty much everybody can be fooled by fake news on social media. A study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in 2021 suggested that 3/4 of Americans overestimate their ability to spot something fake online. Republicans, the study noted, have less trust in the media and were more confident in their ability to spot false news than Democrats.
Voters are smart, they've become skeptical, they read it carefully, they look for good sources. So they're looking for legitimate sources behind it, and if they don't see it, then they don't trust it. And I know that because my campaign posts information that is backed by legitimate news sources, and people see that and they trust it because of that. If I didn't do that, then they would question it.
Right. A lot of fake news is still around, in terms of what's passed on social media platforms. I'm not talking about the mainstream media. Do you think there are any learnings from the 2020 campaign, 2020 elections, or the elections that have gone by?
I think some of the social media sites are doing a better job of filtering out some of the, frankly, phony and not legitimate accounts that are out there. That's a lot of what was spreading a lot of the fake news. So I think that's helping out quite a bit. And frankly, I think just voters are becoming smarter and more attuned to it, so it's helping out.
The need to verify what you see online is getting even more important, but also harder for users. It's not just news stories that can be fake, and it's not just Twitter. It has also been reported on different studies that researchers submitted that bluntly false election-related ads to Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube approved nearly all the false ads, and Facebook approved a significant portion according to the report. In Washington, D.C., Reena Bhardwaj.